Hi everyone, today is January 27th, 2018, and this is the Duel Assessment, your podcast for Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. My name is Green Ranger.
And I'm Deck Tech.
And this is take two, actually. There's been a new event this week, the tag duels that everyone has been expecting. New MiniBOX, a lot of new cards inserted into Duel World, and of course a lot of esports going on. Not a lot of individual events, but we're going to spend a bit of time talking about the new cards and our impressions of them. So, Deck Tech, what's up?
Like you said, there's been a little bit going on, but it's also been kind of chill. So I've been auto-dueling the event, and I finally got around to playing those PvP games that I've been putting off for a while. I'm at around 60 wins now, and that has put me at Legend 2 with the deck that we were talking about last time, the Ancient Gears control thing. So it's going pretty well, pretty smoothly, and there's still a chance that I can make it to King of Games in the last couple days of the season. So that's kind of cool.
Would you find it as extra motivation next month if you didn't get King of Games and you would have to grind through the Kaiba Cup, or do you not want to do that at all?
Yeah, I don't know. Because last time we did the first round of Kaiba Cup, it was really easy to get through anyway, so there's not huge motivation to do it this month as opposed to next month. But what I did find motivating was that you made it last week, so I was like, well, I gotta pick up my piece of the slack and do my part to make the show great. So that's why I put in a few more games than I might have otherwise done so, and it's going, like I said, pretty smoothly. Obviously it's a little hard to get those streaks towards the very end, but the deck's pretty solid.
I've been in King of Games. I've also been taking it very easy. I've been doing a bit of the event, a lot of the auto dueling, for the tag duels, and also just collecting the tokens now. When I was in PvP, I did spend a bit of time playing the Dark Magician deck, and it's actually a very fun deck, and it does beat a lot of things just because it's fairly explosive in the card power that they have. When you do lose, it's typically due to inconsistency, like bricking and stuff like that, but it's a pretty good deck.
Yeah, it looked like a cool deck. That was one that I wanted to try out, but I decided that I was going to be serious on PvP, so instead of testing something new, I was sticking with the thing that I knew well, and then maybe if and after I make King of Games, then I'll pick it up as well, or just to try it out, because it seems fun.
Yeah, and the Master of Magician skill actually doesn't really... Well, I haven't played it enough to know how often they give you the right card at the right time, but I've needed dark magic attacks and I didn't get it, things like that. So it's not super consistent, so I don't really know how that skill actually works yet. They always give me the card that I don't know. I don't even know the name of it. It's like Dark Magic Revelations or something. It's like a quick play that has 3 different abilities, but that's the card I keep getting. And anyhow, I got the new cards as well from the new box, and I made a new Red Eye Zombie deck, which kind of sucks. It was good the first day, but then the second day I kept losing the things, including Cyber Angels and King of Games, so it's not a very good deck, and I'm not a good deck builder, so I'll just have to see what people do with the new cards.
Yeah, everything's making comebacks, I guess. Yep. Dark Magician, Red Eyes, well, I guess Red Eyes kind of never left, but Red Eyes a little bit, Cyber Angels.
Yep.
It's all come back.
We're gonna expect tunes next week probably.
Right.
Yeah.
It's actually part of the plan for the 1 year anniversary is that they're making all of the old decks good again for a day each.
Yeah. Tune Barrel Dragon's yours.
Yeah.
We'll see. Oh yeah, ninjas aren't bad either. 3-star Emotion's not dead. I feel like I've lost to that a few times.
Oh, interesting. I'm mostly still seeing Nephis. The Phoenix deck is all up in Legend.
That's a Legend grinder.
Yeah, it's the single most common thing I see in Legend. By a lot.
It's weird though, because I only have one. So I can't even play it if I wanted to.
Yeah, well it also seems like it's not super good against other decks. It just happens to be good against the deck that I'm using. So that's offensive, but you do what you can.
Yeah. So that's enough about us. And we're gonna move on to the news section and esports. Duel Links Meta Championship Series 5 is going on right now, actually, as we record. It's a 2-day event, and we're going to report on it next week, but it seems like the biggest one. We expect Red Eye Zombie to be the most common deck, just because it's been winning a lot recently. Pretty strong deck. Probably a tier 1 right now. But DK did mention, as a teaser, he saw the decks, and there are some really weird decks. There are some really surprising decks, which makes me think they're using the new cards. So we'll see. It's probably the Boojins, if I had to guess, just because they're new. But there's 314 players, and we'll see who comes up. Yeah, the Boojins are weird. It's just like it's a bit of that surprise factor, right?
Yeah, a little bit. It's we're obviously going to do the set review later, but it's a little bit hard to judge exactly how it will be built and how good they'll be. So it'd be interesting to see these top level players, how they figured it out. I know last time, or one of the previous Duel Links meta tournaments, they had like someone with the Leviathan deck, and so every once in a while they get a couple weird ones. I don't remember what the other ones were, but I remember specifically there was like a weird Leviathan deck that was getting a lot of hype. So I like that some people, even at the high level of play, are still experimenting and bringing fun and off the wall things.
Yeah, and it's probably because they played with it in the TCG that they know how to use it or something, or they're really familiar with it. Like, I wouldn't even know what they do right now. So it's definitely some familiarity to have the confidence to bring it, I guess.
Yeah, that's probably true. I know that a lot of people kind of have a better idea of how cards work and decks are built with them and stuff because they've had experience with it outside of the game, whereas we haven't. So maybe that's why. We'll chalk that up to the experience as to why they're better and quicker than us, and not just because they're better and quicker.
Yeah. Duel Links Pro 13 happened last week, and it became apparent that, I mentioned Red Eye Zombie being top tier. It made up 32% of all the decks brought to this tournament, so that's a whole third. It's pretty balanced. I mean, not balanced. Pretty in the favor of Red Eye Zombie being top tier. I forget what Cyber Angels was in the tournaments. It was around the same, right? 40% maybe? I forget.
I don't remember what it was exactly, but almost everyone brought it for at least one of their decks in the multi-deck tournaments.
Right.
And so in that sense, it was slightly less than 50% for those ones. I don't remember about the single person decks.
Yeah, back then they didn't have too many of them. I think they were more of the multiple deck tournaments back then. Yeah. Anyhow, 84 competitors, one deck, one sideboard, Swiss, and top 18. Top 16, I mean. First place, Silverstone. I think we've seen Silverstone's name come up in different variations with numbers, but we assume it's the same person.
It's a little weird. You can change your name around in the game so easily.
Yeah. Silverstone brought Red Eye Zombie, Bones version, 22 card version. Just worked really well. There's a lot of synergies with Red Eyes, with the zombies, and also Storm. Obviously, if you're playing the Straight to the Grave version, you probably should be using Storm because you have the extra field. 3 econs. People are using fewer econs nowadays, but still proved useful. And the side deck includes Gemini, Imps, Acid Rain, and Retort.
Yep. The Gemini Imp's a little weird. But that's just because I don't know what that card is. What's that one do?
Where is it from? It's from one of the GX characters from Leveling Up. That's where it's from. It's kind of like Delinquent Duo, right? They look like him.
No, the Delinquent Duos were
smaller,
cartoonier. These are kind of buff and scary guys.
It's like a grown-up version of them. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Be careful who you make fun of and whatever. All right, so let's see. Just in case anyone else doesn't know it, like I don't, it's a 4-star fiend, 1,000 attack, 1,000 defense. During either player's turn, when your opponent activates a spell, trap card, or monster effect that could make you discard when it resolves, You can discard this card from your hand to the graveyard to negate the activation, and if you do, destroy it, then draw one card. So, an anti-discard card.
Anti-Dark World or Saphira, maybe.
Yeah, interesting. And I guess that does explain why it's the buffed up Delinquent Duo.
Yep.
Because it counters them, kind
of.
They
do the opposite, yeah.
Yeah.
Second place, Jason. Aroma Strategy, Hazy Flame. We've seen this version recently. It's the Zero Parryton version. It has the 3 soul exchanges. Sideboard includes Sphere Karibo, Acid Rain, and Wall of D.
A lot of Acid Rain in the sideboards.
It's because everyone's running Electro. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
Third place, tied for third place, Wames. This is a new person, I believe. It's a Parasite Infestation Gladiator Beast deck. There are Gladiator Beasts are evolving. They seem to look different every week. This one has 3 Sphere Karibos, 3 Floodgates, 3 Super Rush Headlongs. Back then they ran Impenetrable Attack or Draining Shield. There's none of that. And the side deck includes 3 Econs and 2 Foolish Burials.
Yeah, this is like kind of a aggro-y take on it. I like it a lot. I mean, it's very expensive. He's got the 3 Trap Holes, the 3 Sphere Karibos, the 3 super rare of the Gem Gladiator Beast. So he definitely put a lot into it, but it looks like it could be really strong there.
Yeah. I mean, the Sphere Karibo is definitely a thing because of the new box. That's why we're seeing it a lot more. Or just people just spend a lot of money on it, I think.
Maybe a bit of both.
Bit of both. Yeah, we've seen some ridiculous decks posted online from people in Japan. Some really good players in Japan, and they just have like every card already, or it's like 3 Volcanic Rockets, 3 Dark World Dealings, and it's kind of mind blowing how people have those decks. But if you put enough money into it, you'll get all those URs.
Yep.
And the last deck we'll talk about for now is 3K All Day, also tied for third place. I think 3K All Day had a different name because this person is number 5 ranked in their standings. I think this is 3D. I'm not positive, but it's a familiar name.
It sounds familiar.
They're part of a team, I think. It's like a 3K team, and they all have like the same prefix. Something like that.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't remember specifically, but this is a weird deck.
This is the Odeon Concede deck.
Yeah.
But the monster consistency is a little different than the one we reported on last time. There's Lava Golem, 3 Man-Eater Bugs. There's 1 Yonomi ship, actually. 1 Ghost Trick Yuki Onna, 3 Dimensional Warriors, and 2 Exploder Dragons. I mean, you have your control traps in Floodgates, Divine Wrath, Wild Tornado, Anubis, Edequa, and 3 Massive Morphs. And the sideboard includes Burning Lands. I'm looking at the wrong deck. Burning Lands, Divine Wrath, Magic Jammer, and Pot of Avarice.
Yeah, 2 Jar of Avarice. Right. So we talked about it last week, like you said. It's so weird to look at, and it seems so unfun, but I guess some people just like making sure that their opponent can't do anything.
Actually, I was watching the MCS as we were waiting to record this episode, and the first match that was spectated was someone bringing the deck, but they conceded. Like, Nyx brought an Odeon deck, but apparently he bricked so bad that he just conceded, and it ended like that.
Well, there you go.
It's kind of the reward for making the games unfun. It's
yeah.
for them to break. So, that's Duel Links Pro, and we're going to talk about the Duel Links Meta Weekly number 4 that happened. This happened before the MCS 5, of course, and this is the weekly tournament. And the winner is... Notes are kind of discombobulated. 364 players. Oh, yeah. I'm mixing up the notes. Woo. Okay. um, First place is the Blue Ranger. So there's another person named after a Power Ranger, I guess. Blue Ranger, first place winner, and it's a Dino control deck, but it's not your typical dinosaur deck in that there's no Sergeant Electro, and it's been replaced by Saber Source. And there are various spells and traps that do the same thing as Sergeant Electro, like Fire Formation, Gyaku, and Shingzen Hu.
Yep. Looks interesting.
I mean, I don't know what the reason is for not including Sergeant Electro. I guess they just want the higher attack in that every monster here has at least 1900 or 2200 or 2100. So
Yeah, and maybe also to avoid maybe seeing some sideboard action, right? And they're trying to avoid those acid rains.
yeah, that's true. And the thing about Fire Formation Gyaku is that it can't be countered. Like, you can't activate the trap once it's played. So that's why people bring that. If you think, why don't they play Shingzen Hu all the time? That's the reason that it can't be countered.
Yeah, Shingzen Hu also requires 2 targets, so sometimes it's dead. But,
right, yeah. Second place is Yasser. Another 22 card Bones Red Eye Zombie deck. It's almost identical to the Silverstone deck that we just saw, but the only difference is that there's 1 Samurai Skull over a 3rd Gozuki. We assume Yasser doesn't have 3 Gozukis. So
yeah, probably. We've heard Yasser before, though, right? We know.
Yeah, he always shows up in top 4 or something.
Yeah, so good for him or her.
The next 2 people we've also heard of a ton. Drakmor, tied for 3rd. This is a very expensive Dark World deck. It seems they run dual standby now. It's expensive because you have 3 of the Snows and 3 of the Dark World Dealings, 2 of the Dark World Lightnings, and 3 Ceruleas as well. So it's a very expensive deck. And it's probably the first time we've seen Dark World show up in a top list.
Yeah, it is. Outside of the YouTube comments and stuff.
Right. So it seems like it's sad that you have to be this super expensive version. Just because it's so inconsistent in the cards. You need the Snows. Yeah, that's something you need.
Right. So we talked about this when they came out. The thing with the Dark World cards is that they're so antithetical to what a normal card game mechanics are, where card advantage is usually king. And so because of that, you can't go halfway in Dark World, because it will just be contra whatever you're trying to combine it with. So you have to go full into it, and sometimes that makes it more expensive, because you have to buy it through a bunch of times and get exactly this list or something very close to it.
Yeah, I played it a bunch when I didn't know what to do, and it just bricked a lot without the snow. I think I just kept drawing the rainbow, and yeah, it was just I needed a monster, and I just had no monster. Things like that. Cerulea's not really a monster because you give it away. Then you put your Trance Archfiend in defense mode, and it's kind of useless. So it's a lot of things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And tied for 3rd as well, Waibona. This is a No Mortal Can Resist control deck. We say it's a control deck because it's almost like a dinosaur deck, almost identical. They have the Black Brachiost and the Electro, but there's no Hydrogeddons, and there are 3 Grandmaster Ninja Sasuke's instead. And Cosmic Cyclone and Mirror Wall make it pretty easy to lose life for No Mortal Can Resist.
It's a really interesting, kind of combination of decks.
Yeah, I mean, we expected a lot of Red Eye Zombie, I guess, but now it seems like there are these emerging control archetypes, and it seems like Electro's in the middle of all of it, usually, or the Dark World deck, too.
Yeah. This one, obviously, No Mortal Can Resist is also in response to the Red Eye Zombie, so that's an interesting aspect, that if you can make your control deck take advantage of a skill Previously, of course, it took advantage of like mind scans, so it can just know how to control the board better, even though some of the board will be face down. And this is an interesting evolution of that, to end up using a skill to further the control plan. I like it.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a point in psychics anymore. Like, like I don't know if there is an advantage of using no mortal can resist psychics as opposed to this version right here. I think this version's just better. Cosmic Cyclone kind of does the same thing as Psychokinesis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So those are the tournaments. Right. Yep. And we're going to move on to the new MiniBOX Resonance of Contrast, which Deck Tech took the lead on this time.
That's right. So this time you guys get to hear me reading out cards and stuff. Just as a overall breakdown, of course it's a mini box, which means that there's 80 packs, 40 different types of cards, which breaks down to 2 URs, 8 SRs, 14 Rs, and 16 Ns. It's got a bit of Bujin and Red Eye support. Bujin are new, of course. And it also has kind of discard and graveyard sub-themes. I'm about to go through all the cards, but my general assessment is that it seems a little bit hyper-focused and also slightly underpowered. So you obviously have to get it if you want to try the Bujin, and you have to get it if you want these new Red Eyes cards. But in terms of like generally applicable, frequently used cards, it seems like there aren't really that many, at least not as many obvious ones. So you might want to hold off a little bit before investing too much into this set. But let's go into the specific cards, see which ones are kind of exciting and interesting.
Do you want me to still read what they do?
Oh, sure. I mean, I have it here, but you can do it if you want to.
Okay, I'll just read it, and I'll let you say everything about the card. Snipe Hunter is a UR 1500, a 600, 4-star fiend. You can discard one card, then target one card on the field, roll a 6-sided die, and then destroy that target, unless you roll a card. Unless you roll a 1 or a 6. Ooh.
Yeah, so obviously this card is interesting kind of on its face. It has 1500 attack, which is not good. Usually that will lose on the board, so you kind of have to protect it if you want to use it multiple times, but it can do a decent amount of damage if there's clear board, or paired with something, maybe it can win some fights. The discard is mandatory, whereas the destruction is situational. So that's like, it seems to call out for decks that want you to discard stuff more. But if you can protect him, the removal is also recurring. So he might find a place in various control decks that don't mind discarding, or that have some sort of aspect where the discard isn't so bad. So it's not necessarily like 100% just discard decks, but could be used as a removal option as well. So I could see this guy seeing some play.
Yeah, it's kind of like why people ran Twin Barrel back then. Kind of the same reason, but this is so much more consistent.
Yeah, it's a 2/3 instead of a 50-50. So
yep,
it's a good little upgrade. Obviously, the cost is the discard, and also the body isn't like the Twin Barrel. Oh wait, Twin Barrel was the 1700 one, right?
Yeah, 200
the 4-star. Yeah. Okay, right. Okay, so never mind. I was talking about. Well, it did have a better body because back when Twin Barrel was being used, 1700 was actually like
the best.
Good. That was one of the best bodies you could have. So I agree. It kind of feels like a similar utility role, but the analogy does kind of make me think that this guy's probably not going to see play because Twin Barrel doesn't see any more play, but it might be. It'll probably pop up like a little bit in a specialized deck that likes to discard or something.
And this card was data mined like really long time ago, like almost more than half a year ago. It's finally in the game. I guess they waited for it to suck.
They
until they released
well,
it.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I wonder how much they want to make coin flips and dice rolls and like variants decide games.
Right. We have a fusion card, Red Eyes Slash Dragon, 2800, 2400, 7 stars. Yeah, its fusion materials are Red Eyes Black Dragon, so that's the original, and any warrior monster. When a Red Eyes monster declares an attack, you can target one warrior monster in your graveyard. Equip it to this card as an equip spell with this effect. This equipped monster gains 200 attack. When a card or effect is activated that targets a card you control, this is a quick effect. You can send one equipped card you control to the graveyard, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. If this card is destroyed by battle or by card effect, you can special summon as many monsters from your graveyard that were equipped to this card.
Yeah, so this is obviously it's UR. It's kind of one of the faces of it. It was part of the training, mission thing as well. So we got to see it a little bit in action, which is nice because it has like a lot of text and effects, and it might be too confusing otherwise for people to kind of pick up. Obviously, it worked pretty well in that special scenario that they set up for us, but I'm overall just not super impressed. It seems like Red Eyes is pretty fine-tuned and doesn't really need or have room for this. But I did already see, I think on Reddit, someone got King of Games or something with Elemental Hero Blaze Man, which counts both as your warrior and gets you a polymerization. So it kind of it's really fine-tuned and tight in that sense, so it doesn't mess up the deck list too much. And then you get to use this pretty powerful effect. You know, he's basically a 3,000 attacker with some built-in protection. So it might come up. I still lean towards traditional Red Eyes, and if anything, I like the ritual that we're going to talk about next more as kind of the shift on the traditional. But there's a little bit of potential here for it too.
I was thinking you could fuse this card with Amazoness Swordswoman, but that's too cute, I think, to make like a burn deck out of Red Eyes.
So because of the revive effect, or
yeah, like it just keeps getting destroyed, and then they take damage, and then it comes back, and then they take damage again. Well, they only take damage once, right? Because it depends if you want to send it to the graveyard, but you just keep bringing Amazoness Swordswoman back. But that might take too long. Yeah,
maybe we'll see.
The fusion card deck is talking about is Paladin of Dark Dragon, 4 stars, 1900, 1200. It gets ritual summoned by Dark Dragon Ritual, which is just an N in the set. At the start of the damage step, if this card attacks a defense position monster, destroy that monster. So it's an effect. You can tribute this card, special summon one Red Eyes monster from your hand or deck, except for Red Eyes Black Chick. You can use this effect of Paladin of Dark Dragon once per turn.
Yeah, so this is a 4-star, which means that my mind went to Red Eyes Wyvern. You can pay for the Wyvern, or you can pay for this with the Wyvern to pull out, tutor a Red Eyes from your deck, and then use Wyvern to summon another Red Eyes either that turn or later. And it just seems like there's a lot of natural synergy there. And the effect is moderately powerful. You can kind of use it with those econs and stuff that you were using to clear out stuff. Red Eyes traditionally doesn't really have too much of an issue with that, but we've seen some power with Suzuki, so I like just kind of the whole package with this card.
What's interesting is that it also works on face-down defense, so it probably gets rid of a flip effect.
Yeah, I think it does.
Yeah, it does.
Just like Suzuki. There's also the ritual is, again, kind of adding to the synergy, so I really like that as well. I'm just going to skip down and I can read this one. You use it, obviously, to ritual summon it. You must tribute stars equal to 4 or more. During your main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card from your graveyard to add one Red Eyes spell or trap card from your deck to your hand. So the ritual spell is also a tutor effect.
Hmm.
So I really like kind of that whole combination of all of those effects. It can really add to various card advantage. It can really make the deck really redundant and also powerful.
Yeah, tutoring a insight is a really big deal, and there would be less reason to run 3 of them in your deck for Red Eyes.
Yeah. So I think that might be the way that Red Eyes kind of evolves with after the set kind of gets a little bit more traction. That's
It's very exciting.
my called shot.
But the thing that feels bad is that the ritual summon, because you're just getting like an 1800 into a 1900. But I guess you want its effect more than the attack, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you can ritual summon it just to tribute it as well. I mean,
That's true.
for that tutor effect. So, I don't know. I might be wrong. We already have the white version, or Blue Eyes White Dragon version of this, and
Right.
it does not anymore see really play. It only got like niche play a long time ago. So, it may well be that the time is too far gone for this, but I'm still excited to try it out.
Yeah. Dawn Knight is a 1400, 1200 warrior. We've seen this card before in different attributes, but it's a light attribute. If this card is sent to the field, from the field to the graveyard, you can send 1 light monster from your deck to the graveyard. If this card is sent from your deck to the graveyard, target 1 light monster in your graveyard. Place that target on top of your deck. You can only use one Dawn Knight effect per turn and only once that turn.
Yeah. So this guy has kind of 2 pseudo tutor effects in one, because in this game, it can be relevant to get things into your graveyard. And then obviously if something's already in your graveyard, then it puts it on top of your deck instead of in your hand, which is kind of the traditional tutor. But it seems like both effects are kind of weak. The body's a little weak, 1400, 1200. And so I'm thinking unless there's a specific combo or synergy that we're not seeing here, then this will not see play. This has to be in a very specific deck that's trying to get pieces into the graveyard or maybe pieces onto the top of the deck for it to really be worth running.
I guess the Light Sworns, maybe? Because they just discard a bunch of stuff. But they're not even that good, unfortunately.
Yeah, maybe.
Bujin Yamato. This is a SR 1800 200 Beast Warrior that's light. Once per turn during your end phase, you can add 1 Bujin monster from your deck to your hand. Then send 1 card from your hand to the graveyard. You can only control 1 Bujin Yamato.
Yeah, so I really like this guy. Obviously, this is kind of one of the things that I think will kind of spawn a new archetype from the set if it ends up being anything decent. It has solid attack, 1800, really weak defense, so if you get flipped over you're going to get killed, but the effects are really cool and powerful, and the Bujins kind of have synergy within themselves, as we'll see kind of later. The problem is that if the archetype is good, it probably means you need 2 or maybe 3 of this guy, because he's kind of the main thing that it's built around. Yeah. And so you're going to have to buy the set through a bunch of times.
Is it a problem if you can only get to control 1 of them at a time? Like, you could just brick, right? Maybe.
Yeah, it could be. But there's also, like, you can discard, right?
I think one of them, like, special summons or something, so you just get monsters back on the board, I think.
Right, and I'm thinking his skills or his effect is kind of written in the inverse, which is why I paused there for a sec to read it to make sure. But if you have extras, you can just discard them to basically get a different monster from your deck. So there's not, like, you don't have to worry about that too much, I think.
That makes sense. Paladin of Curse of Dragon. SR.
Hey.
Oh, this guy's a light zombie. I didn't notice that. It's a 1900, 1200, 4-star light zombie. Once per turn, you can target one level 4 or lower zombie monster in your opponent's graveyard that was destroyed by battle. Special summon that target to your side of the field.
Yeah, so this seems to me to be mostly just a beater that has a little bit of upside when you're in like specific matchups, and so it might be really important in like a mirror match or something, but it looks like you can just pair this with Bones' ability and just have a 2100 4-star monster.
Right.
And that seems like kind of the main draw to me. And then every once in a while you'll be able to steal their Paladin of the Cursed Dragon or something.
Yeah, my zombie deck, I tried to take advantage of this. I ran Zombie World, so all their monsters you could take back, like, in the late game. Because they were destroyed in battle and then they become zombies, and you could just bring them back with this guy.
Sneaky.
But, yeah, that deck didn't work.
Not quite sneaky enough.
Nope. Phalanx Pike. This is a SR equipped spell. The equipped monster gains 900 attack for each card in either graveyard that has the same name as it does.
Yep, so, I mean, equipped spells are usually pretty bad unless there's a way to mitigate your the 2-for-1 potential. This one has an interesting effect that we haven't seen before, but it still has that 2-for-1 problem, and so it seems like it's likely to not be good enough to see play. The thing I'm interested in is if there's maybe some way to abuse it. The thing that came to my mind was No Mortal Can Resist,
right,
to kind of make it so that there's a bunch of things with the same name, but then you have to run those terrible guys, so it doesn't, I don't know. I'm not seeing exactly how this gets into any sort of competitive deck.
Well, there's the King of the Skull Servants. I think he counts as his name is Skull Servant, I think.
Oh, okay. So maybe.
Those terrible guys.
Yeah.
They're dead. Defense draw. SR Trap. During your opponent's turn at damage calculation, make the battle damage you take from this battle 0, and if you do, draw a card.
Yeah, so this one, it doesn't protect your monster, which means that it's not a replacement for those various other stall cards in most decks. It also doesn't get you ahead in the deck out race, so it's not specifically for those decks, which makes me think that its best use would be in like Weevil, Parasite, Lava Golem, Burn, Stall stuff.
Yeah.
And those decks are super annoying, so I'm a little upset that they get this extra toy.
Yeah. I think for the longest time when I was playing the TCG, there was a card called Wabaku, and it has the same first ability, I think, but I always treated that as saving a monster, and everyone else at school did as well, because we just didn't know the rules, I guess, and we just kept using it to save our monsters, but clearly it doesn't do that.
Yeah, so don't do that. Don't think it does.
None of our games counted, I guess.
Oh,
we're all cheating. Skill Successor, SR Trap. Target one face-up monster you control. It gains 400 attack until the end of this turn. During your turn, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish it from your graveyard to target one face-up monster you control, and it gains 800 attack until the end of this turn.
Yeah, so it's kind of a weak buff and then a decent buff on the next turn, or on a next turn, when they can see it coming. So that kind of makes me think it's a pretty mediocre card. Seems significantly worse than the combat trick type traps that we already run, like Mirror Wall, Wall of D, Metal Morph, even Rare Metal Morph in the right deck. So I don't think that this one is really worth playing.
I actually like it for the reason that there's so much Electro and Storm on the in the meta. Like, it's like a meta dependent card, and you can't play around it because it's gonna be in their graveyard and they don't know unless they remember that it's in the graveyard. But it's kind of like why Bacon Saver is good, I think, because you can't play around it really.
Yeah, I don't know.
You can't control it. I mean, you can't control it.
Yeah, I wouldn't bank on people not remembering it, but I guess there is some value to it being able to be used in like kind of working around their control options, but I'm just not so sold.
Yeah, it just totally depends on the meta, I guess. And you could just, I think you could also discard it, but I guess it just depends how much that 800, how good that 800 is compared to the mirror wall, I guess, which is your point.
Right. And also, I don't know for sure, but I think the 800 effect is slow. I don't think you can just like do that as a combat trick.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a good question. It's one of those like chain link rules.
Yeah.
I feel like you could. Well, during your turn, that might be it. Yeah, during your turn.
Hmm.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
SR Trap Void Trap Hole. Whenever your opponent special summons a monster with 2,000 or more attack, negate the effects of one of those monsters with 2,000 or more attack, and if you do, destroy it.
So this one seems like specifically trying to counter Red Eyes, and maybe some other stuff, but I don't know. This it seems very niche, and so it's really powerful when it hits, obviously, and but it's just hard for you to find targets for it. So it seems like it's only for like a really specific metagame, or I guess for Phoenix as well as Red Eyes. But
it would work on Dakini too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean, there's a few targets. We're not seeing much of Dakini anymore.
That's true.
But I think this feels more like a sideboard card to me than
definitely
a main deck card, because it's so niche. Like, you have to be facing against a specific opponent that is relying on these types of monsters, and I don't think on the ladder it's so skewed that you can kind of rely on that, and so a lot of games you would end up having a dead card.
Yeah, Floodgate's definitely a more of a staple. This card's not really a staple.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the rares and ends you like. Luster Dragon is a 1900-1600 wind 4-star monster. That's it.
And that's it. And he's a dragon is kind of the important thing, because he gets the buff, peak performance buff from one of those two characteristics. And so he's going to be 2100 4-star. We were talking about that before. It's decent stat line. I expect him to see probably the most play in newer players with more limited collections, because they're the ones who tend to run things like peak performance, but maybe he'll sneak out of there and get into something a little higher tier.
It's power creep. It's just happening right here.
It's happening hard right here. I have so many battle oxes.
I feel like I only have like one, because I barely bought the first box.
Yeah, I bought it through, not like all the way through, but I bought a lot of the first box because I wanted 2 Sphere Karibo.
Is it an SR or UR? It's a UR, right? So you bought it over again, right? Like, you rolled it, yeah. Let's talk about some of the Bujin cards. Bujinji Boar. It basically turns, when it's in the graveyard, you can banish it, and it makes a Curse of Anubis effect on one monster. So they become defense mode, and then they have 0 defense. There's also Bujinji Centipede, which you can banish, and you could target one spell or trap your opponent controls and destroy it.
Right, so both of those guys, obviously we were talking about how before you'd want to put things into your graveyard using the Yamato. So it kind of like you can cycle them, and then you can use these guys. I think Centipede is probably the best because back row control is always solid in this game. But Bujinji Boar also is nice because it lets you protect your guys from some of their combat tricks. Helps clear out big monsters, of course, and there's also one of these things gives piercing, which I don't think is the best one. I'm not sure if you would play the piercing one, but obviously combined with 0 defense, that's nice. So
yeah, just looking at these two cards, you wouldn't run Sphere Karibo or Electro just because these cards basically do the same thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, you might still run them because they're that good, but the whole point of the deck would be that you would play these cards to get these effects, and then you would use that all kind of as your control aspect. And so I guess if you feel like you still need Sphere Karibos and Sergeant Electros, then the question would be if it's worth it to run the Bujins at all.
Right. Exactly. Bujin Arasuda, it gets special summon from the hand in defense mode whenever a card is banished from your graveyard. So that's 1900 defense. Do you see this card being played?
I like the second effect that we haven't talked about yet. And it seems like it will probably see play in the Bujin decks. I'm seeing it kind of as part of like an engine to help fuel the rest of the deck.
Right. Yeah, what seems like I'm looking at these cards now and it doesn't seem like they have like a boss monster. Like Yamato's 1800, but that's it. Like I don't see it. Like what else does it do? Yeah.
No, you're right. There's definitely no boss monster. So this is more of like a mid-range control type archetype, which is what most of what they're calling control decks are in Duel Links. The Sergeant Electro and Suzuki type decks. So really the question is whether it's going to be better than those decks. And I'm not really convinced, but it's interesting to see that that's how they want us to build it. So before we move on, the second effect that I was talking about is once per turn during the end phase, if a Bujin card was added from your deck to your hand this turn, except by drawing it, while you controlled this face-up card, you can draw one card, then discard one card. And like the other one, you can only control one of this guy at the time. So basically, that's the part of him that I like kind of more than the special summon, even though the special summon's nice as well, is that it lets you go through your deck and put into your graveyard these centipedes and the boars and stuff that you want so that you can craft your hand with powerful cards that you want to play, and then also fill up your graveyard with these powerful graveyard effects.
And something I'm just seeing here, that they're Beast and Beast Warriors. Some of them were Beast. Like maybe Beast Rising could come into play to make them really big.
Yeah, maybe.
And people online were also talking about the Big Cattle Drive. the card that like draws you cards, I think, if depending on how many beasts, winged beasts or Beast Warriors you have on the field, but I don't think that's... But then you skip your battle phase, so it's kind of... I don't know what you could do.
I didn't see that discussion.
It was just like a stray comment I saw on Reddit, I think. That wasn't really like... It's not going to work. But overall, your impression of it, like it could... Like it might just have something that I'm not seeing. That's how I see it, I think.
Right. I mean, it's since there's no boss monster and since none of the individual effects are like crazy strong, this is the type of thing that's a full deck thing, and that means that it's a little bit hard to assess individually or in a vacuum. It reminds me of the Six Samurai, and so I think it will be equally not quite good enough. But that's like my hot take before having played with it at all.
Yeah. So we'll see like what emerges from it, I guess, in the coming days. Or it might just win the MCS. We don't know.
Yeah, might just.
Photon Lead. Quick play spell. Special summon 1 level 4 or lower light monster from your hand in face-up attack position.
So, this is just... I love special summons. I love anything that can be kind of rampy. It seems like it's in this set specifically to let you do Bujin stuff. It also, since it's a quick play, there's some combat trick potential. And because it's a quick play, it's the best reanimation effect for this class of monsters. So if you're specifically reanimating these things, then this is the one that you want. Which is kind of cool. um, it doesn't seem like the game is any like in that state where you can use it to cheat out monsters very well anymore, like it was kind of early on. But I'm still thinking like maybe I can get multiple Kaiba mans or something like that. So I kind of like it.
The worms are also light, and also the whatchamacallit, XYZ guys, and also the Victory Vipers. They're all light monsters.
Always with the Victory Vipers.
Yeah, that's all I have to rely on anymore. And Card of Sacrifice. Trap card. Draw 2 cards. If the combined attack of all your face-up attack position monsters, a minimum of 2, is less than the attack of your opponent's face-up monster... Wait a minute. If the combined attack of all your face-up attack position monsters is less than the attack of your opponent's face-up monster with the lowest attack... Wait, you draw 2 only if that condition happens. If your 2 monsters combined are less than the lowest of your opponent, you cannot summon or change battle position the turn you activate this card.
Right. Yes, classic Yu-Gi-Oh wording, making things a little bit weird. It's also weird because it seems like the minimum 2 is a requirement, but it doesn't specifically state that like at the start of the sentence where you would expect the requirement to be. Yeah. So I think what it does is you need to have 2 or more monsters, and then given this situation, then you get to draw 2 cards, and also you can't change battle position or summon. So
it's for like drawing into like like you have like some stall defense card, and then you're trying to draw like Exodia or something.
Right. You're drawing. This is a draw card for decks with weaker monsters and stall stuff, and seems like a little bit of combo potential. It's also a trap, so the not being able to summon or change battle position seems less important. Like that's not that much of a downside.
Right.
So it's a bit of an odd card.
Yeah.
But it is. If you fill those requirements, just draw 2 cards. So obviously that's powerful. We've seen the effects of powerful card draw effects in this game. Everyone knows that the card that they're never letting us get is just super good for having that same effect. So
yeah, it might be some farming thing too with the Labyrinth Wall. It says 0. Yeah. Draw 2. Yeah, we'll see. All right. So we're going to move on to the Tag Duel Tournament event. It was much anticipated, and as we expected, it is PvE, and they mentioned that they're using it to test for PvP. And overall, I'd say it runs pretty smoothly, but that's just because it's PvE, right? Right now.
Yeah.
And how it works is you collect friendship letters from duels to play, like tokens, and then you go through, right now it's the normal and hard difficulties, and you should go through them 3 times because they have guaranteed rewards. The Master level, which is the hardest level where you get to team up with Kaiba, unlocks on the 29th of January. The Paradox Brothers randomly crash the duels, so you get to duel them about like once per rotation, I'd say. And you basically get to use the coins you get, which is based on your duel assessment on the card lottery.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Do you have more?
Joey, when you're playing with Joey, he always plays Time Wizard. Or, like, when you're behind, he plays Time Wizard, and he uses its ability. It always seems to land on tails, so you lose anyways. And Jay shows up to the wrong duel. Oh, yeah, another thing is that if you play as the Paradox Brothers, they take turns. So you only use, like, one of them at a time. That's pretty cool, yeah.
It's funny. But then it's a 3-man team.
Yeah, like it's like they alternate though. It's funny though. Like use the orange guy and then the next duel use the green guy. Like they switch, keep switching. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think some people, there's kind of like different groups of people and how they responded to this. Some people were pretty disappointed that it wasn't like more robust, I guess. I personally was pretty happy that it was both a really like simple and shallow event, and one that I could just auto duel the whole time, and I pretty much have been auto dueling it the whole time. And then you were telling me that some people were talking about farming it, and that just seems like a terrible waste of time.
It seems like they did it successfully with like Ra, in that way that the computer can't mess it up. But I feel like the computer messes it up a lot. Like Joey attacks with Time Wizard on defense monsters. Mm-hmm. Like he does. Yeah. I mean, that might help your duel assessment, but you might just lose the game because of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will not trust the computer for my farming. You know, I'm not about to devote all that time and energy into something that the computer's just going to mess up.
Yeah. And generally, I think it's good to bring a deck that has like prismatics or something where you could ramp up to 3,000, like Beast Rising or something, maybe. Yeah, they could automatically get the points, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. Instead of like farming it, I would just play something maybe that naturally runs like rituals or fusions or something, just to get a few extra points in every time. That seems like a good bet without like going too hard on, trying to waste too much time and energy farming it.
And it's definitely pretty fast, which is a good thing. Like you could get through a hard round much faster than you did the Duelist Chronicles, which is the similar card lottery system.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. So I'm going to talk about the new cards you can get. Unity is a UR quick play spell. You're guaranteed one of these, but you can get more. Select one monster on your side of the field. The defense of the selected monster becomes equal to the combined defense of all face-up monsters on your side of the field until the end of this turn. So it seems like you could, do some stuff with like Titan Showdown or Canyon, where they hit into defense monster and they lose a lot of life points. But I think it could be a farming card with Shield and Sword, maybe. So you don't have to use Union Attack.
Yeah, maybe.
We'll see. Evil Swarm Salamandra. This is a 1850-950 dinosaur, 4 stars. Up to twice per turn, you can banish one monster from your graveyard. This card gains 300 attack until the end of your opponent's turn. So you could gain 300 or 600. What's clear is this helps Tyranno Infinity. That's the one card that helps. So maybe there could be some kind of aggro dinosaur.
Yeah, maybe. Until the end of your opponent's turn is nice because a lot of these effects are until the end of your turn, so you buff something and then it dies on your next turn because they can just attack into it or something now. So this is a little bit better.
And I think dinosaurs are meant to go on the offensive, so that's why dinosaur control never really made sense to me. This guy is like a real dinosaur.
Yeah, it's unrealistic.
Zumbira the Dark. This is a 2100, 500 defense Dark Warrior, 4 stars. This card cannot attack your opponent directly. If this card destroys a monster by battle, it loses 200 attack. So this card's been around for, people wanted this card. It's pretty much a control monster because it can't attack directly, and it just destroys monsters, and it has some value because it could take out like 2 guys before he gets traded in. The real question is, now you have 2 fusion materials for the last warrior from another planet. And we just don't know if it's going to come. We have the 2 fusion materials for it.
Oh, yeah. Is that guy good? I don't know that guy.
Alright. Get ready to get blown away here. Okay, so fusion. Zumbira plus Mario Kutai, which is a card that's been around, no one uses. 2350, 2300 fusion monster. When this card is special summoned, destroy all monsters on your side of the field except for this card. As long as this card remains face up on the field, neither player can normal summon, flip summon, or special summon any monster.
Oh, baby.
Yeah.
Maybe. We might get that someday. I mean, we already have the king. What's it called? The Ojama King.
Right. This guy gets beat if there's a 2400 in the field. That's like the only way this guy gets beat, I think. Or, I mean, any back row can counter him, I guess.
Right, yeah.
That gets hard removed.
I think that's why it's okay to add it, because of the back row removal kind of protecting against him. But it would suck if they get it out on, like, the first turn and you don't run Tribute to the Doomed or something, then you're just like, okay, I guess I lose.
Yep. Lightning Blade. Equip spell, equipped to a warrior monster only. It gains 800 attack, and all water monsters lose 500 attack. So, like, I haven't even seen any water decks, even in the lower levels, so it's kind of like this card would have been good when Mako was good, but now it's long past.
Yeah, kind of feeling the same way.
Yep. Cryuel, 1,1700 4-star Fiend. When this card is sent to the graveyard as a result of battle, toss a coin and call it. If you call it right, destroy one monster on your opponent's side of the field. So it's kind of like a budget Yomi ship or Maneater Bug. And it could work for those like control decks if they don't have extra copies, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely wouldn't run it for any, like, if you had the guaranteed destruction ones. But I think if you need them still, then sure, this could be a budget replacement.
And it kind of makes your opponent think, I think. Like, is it worth destroying this card and losing my only monster and when my hand has no monsters and I could lose the game type situation, maybe?
Could.
Yeah,
but
situational.
Well, I'm assuming mostly you would play this face down, and mostly it would die the first time it gets attacked into, but maybe not, since 1700 is bigger than Sergeant Electro.
Right, yeah.
So,
maybe.
I don't know.
Swords at Dawn. Quick play spell. Target one equipped spell in your graveyard and one monster on the field. Equip the equipped spell to that monster. Destroy that equipped spell during the end phase. If you activate this card, you cannot special summon it for the rest of the turn. You can only activate one Swords at Dawn per turn. So this works with Big Bang Shot or Supervise, I think. Or you can recycle Black Pendant for extra burn. It's like a combo card, but I don't see it being useful outside of that.
Yeah, I like your options. Supervise sounds fun to get just more of those. If they hadn't just nerfed a bunch of the stuff for the combo deck, then this would be a better way to get another Dark Pendant for that extra burn. Big Bang Shot's tricky. I like where your head's at.
Yep. And Triamid Pulse is a continuous trap card. Once per turn, you can banish 2 cards from your graveyard, any combination of rock-type monsters or field spells. Target one other face-up card on the field and destroy it. Target one rock-type monster in your graveyard, special summon it in defense mode. Target up to 3 spell cards in your graveyard, shuffle them into your deck, and draw 1 card.
Yeah,
sorry.
So no, we'll figure it out. We got some construction going on in the background. So if we can get that out in post, we will, and if not, sorry.
Yeah.
So this, I guess, is in like Magnet Warriors or something. Is that what you're thinking?
That's how I saw it, and it also works with Release from Stone.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so,
it's an interesting card.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like it's not going to be played outside of those. Like, it's super combo heavy, I think.
Yeah, because, like, you're never going to have 3 field spell cards in your graveyard, and if you do, you're probably not going to want to shuffle them back into your deck anyway. The Destroying is nice. The Special Summon is sometimes good. So, you know, there's some potential there, I guess.
Yep. So those are some of the cards that you can get from the Tag Duel event, and they're not too impressive overall, but I like the Dinosaur a lot. I think that's probably my favorite card from this, and Zambara the Dark's not bad to have either, I think.
Yeah, I mean, as we usually say, you're going to want to try to do as much of it as you can, because sometimes they add new cards later that make things that we didn't realize were, going to be good, it makes them better and stuff like that. So.
Yep. So definitely play the event when the master rank comes out, because they get the biggest multiplier on coins during that time. So, definitely good to do.
The only question will be if the master rank is hard enough that I have to actually do it, as opposed to just auto-dueling.
Like Kaiba just quits in the middle of the duel.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how it would be harder if you have Kaiba, because you would think that it'd be easier because he's the best, but
No,
I
he's
don't
gonna
know.
insult you every turn. That's why it's harder.
Yeah, he's actually just switching sides and it's 3v1. And you're just like, come on!
Yeah. But I'm sure he doesn't want to lose either, so you'll have a good partner, I assume. And he uses
Yeah,
like econ and stuff like that, or well, we'll
right,
see
yeah,
what he.
he's usually good, so I
Yeah.
don't know.
Konami cracking down on cheaters. So people have gotten in-game messages that their duels are sending data that would not be sent normally. We can assume that everyone. Let's just say that everyone's innocent until proven guilty in this matter. But we are sure that some people who have used APKs in the past are probably the ones who got them these messages, and also maybe some other programs that aren't cheating mechanisms. Maybe they're recording or tracking or something. We'll see.
Yeah, maybe. It does seem like Konami's taking that same stance of innocent until proven guilty. The warning is just that, a warning. It basically says you can contact us if you think you got this message in error, and if we see it again, then we can ban your account. But it doesn't actually do anything now. So that might be maybe less than some people wanted, but I don't know. I saw a couple people posted on Reddit, which is funny because it's basically admitting that those people had probably been using some sort of cheating system, but it didn't seem to get a bunch of outcry, at least when I looked at it. So I guess maybe the community doesn't care as much as long as you're not winning the Kaiba Cup or something.
I think the Kaiba Cup was such a disappointment that it made people not care about this thing.
Maybe.
Maybe. But yeah, we'll see. The next Kaiba Cup's coming soon, so we'll see if this is fixed by then. If we still lose for no reason.
Yep.
1 year anniversary video. So Konami put out a little video that's kind of like a moving infographic. If you like watching infographic, it's definitely a nice thing to check out. But here are some of the numbers that they gave us. There were over 60 million downloads in 150 countries. 1.1 billion card packs opened. Blue Eyes White Dragon's the most popular ace monster. Econ is the most popular spell, played 70 million times. No surprises. Well, I wonder how much that was during the Cyber Angels era. Over half.
Yeah.
Yami Yugi is the most popular character in PvP, which is not surprising, because a lot of people start off with him. 12 million players in ranked duels. Most popular in the USA, Japan, and Brazil. That's a little surprising. USA being number one for some reason.
Yeah, we're big.
It seems like from my own experience though, like Brazil might be number one or Japan. Like it seems like I play those people more, but I don't know.
Yeah, I never really paid attention. Although I guess I could look it up now that they have that where you played people thing.
Yeah. And 186,000 people have hit King of Games, which if you divide over 12 million is 1.5% of the player base.
Yeah, there was a debate on Reddit as to whether that's 186,000 instances of people hitting King of Games or if it's 186,000 distinct people. I'd assume that it's distinct people because a lot of people hit it several seasons. And so it would, if it were every instance of it, then it would be like a tiny percentage of people who make King of Games. I think 1.55 makes a little bit more sense and sounds more reasonable.
I think people just want it to be special. Like, I don't know what the legend number in Hearthstone is, but it's a lot smaller than 1.5%. I think it's like people want themselves to be like a higher status of being like a rarer. Like over 1% doesn't sound too special. I think.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you're right. It'd be fun to say top 1% as kind of like the minimum cutoff, but I know the Hearthstone one used to be like way smaller than that. It used to be 0.05%, but they've changed it a little bit, so it's probably not quite so low, but it's still significantly lower than 1.55%.
Yeah. It's still an accomplishment no matter what, but it's
I
definitely
mean,
yeah.
if you think about it, like you'd be pretty happy to be the 98th percentile in almost anything, right?
Yeah.
And this is also of the 12 million, not of the 60 million. So there's only 20% of the people in the game are even willing to step up to it. And for some people, that's kind of a self-imposed limit just because they're even afraid to try. So it's, I don't know if you could say that's better or worse when you're not counting all those people who aren't really trying for it. But I think it means that it's more of an accomplishment because the people who are actually playing ranked are going to mostly be the people who are trying to play ranked and want to have ranked competition. So I think you could still feel pretty good about making King of Games.
Yeah, sometimes you get caught up into the ranks about getting King of Games and you don't realize that most people are casual players. That's something I always forget. That most people don't even play ranked, so that's something to know.
Yeah.
And finally, Bamboo is getting nerfed again. They followed up and they realized that Golden Bamboo Sword is not cool, and they're only keeping it to 1. It'll be limited starting February 5th.
Yep, and this is what we said they should have done in the first place because that was more of the problem than the sprite, but they got there eventually, so
Yeah, so basically Konami has to hire us.
Basically,
to
yes.
The balance team. Basically.
Definitely what that means.
Yep. All right. So that's all we have for today. You have anything else to add today?
No, I think that's good.
Cool. So hopefully you get a better idea of the cards, and we will discover more of what they do. Hopefully they'll be useful down the road, and we could see some new decks.
Yeah, it'll be fun to see these upcoming tournaments and stuff, too, to see if any of them sneak in.
Yep. So you can find us on the App Store, Google Play, Stitcher, and others. Check out the podcast and more at our website, theduelassessment.wordpress.com. We have a YouTube channel, Patreon. If you want to help support us, patreon.com/duel_assessment. Send us an email at theduelassessment@gmail.com. Or you can find us on Twitter, duel_assessment, me at Green Ranger, HSDeckTech at HSDeckTech.
That'd be great.
All right, thanks, guys. See ya.
See ya.